Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott, and today is day 264 on my countdown to retirement, plus an update from day 265. So, starting with day 265, um, I paid my homeowner's policy for the year. I also paid the 6-month auto policy for both of my vehicles. I did not pay the premium for my umbrella policy because it still hasn't shown up with the correct premium amount nor the correct insurance coverage. So I again contacted my agent to find out when that's going to occur, because obviously I'm not going to pay for it until it gets corrected. Then I texted my mom because gold futures at 6:30 in the morning were already up 2.2% to $3,247.80. And, my mom had asked me to sell her a certain number of shares of her GLD ETF in gold and also the SLV in silver. So I had sold a portion of them the prior day, and then I put in the order to sell the remaining shares that she wanted to liquidate early in the morning. So I at least wanted her to know where gold was before they would, potentially execute. Then the sale from the prior day, I moved into a money market account in U.S. Treasuries. And then I reviewed the year-to-date performance numbers that Schwab had put out across all of the different indexes. And so the S&P was down 10%. And if you looked at the average member across the S&P 500, the average member was down 22% year to date. Did the same thing on the NASDAQ. The composite return was down 15%, but the average member drawdown because of the weightings was actually 42% across the board. And then on the Russell 2000, so the small cap index, it's down 18% year to date, but the average drawdown in the members across the small cap index was 35%. And then on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the return was down 7%, but the average member drawdown year to date was 21%. So I just found those numbers interesting. And then I was trying to understand the relationship between China and the U.S. on the manufacturing side, and whether Trump's policy could actually make a difference with regard to the China tariffs. And so Schwab also had a graph out that was from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, that showed that the U.S. is more reliant on China manufacturing inputs than China is reliant on the U.S. for manufacturing inputs. And the percentages, though, while this graph looks like there's a wide divergence, the actual percentages were roughly 3% that the U.S. requires from China, and less than 1%, so around 0.75% that China relies on for the U.S. for inputs. And so my question is, and maybe you guys know or have an opinion, can that 3% of inputs be easily replaced? What's the time frame for being able to replace those? What's the cost? I don't know. But anyway, I was looking at that. Then most of my day was spent completing a strategic business plan for work. And then I had a bunch of afternoon meetings, ended up making ribs for dinner, and then, pretty much vegged out for the rest of the day. And quite honestly, didn't feel like making this video last night, so I just didn't. So that's why you're getting the update from yesterday today. And then today, as I always do on Saturday, I did my weekly portfolio review, and I ended up being up 2.29% week over week, but last week sucked. So I'm down 5.92% from the highs that we reached in mid-February. And then for the year, I'm down 3.27%. So even though the market bounced back this week when Trump put the 90 day delay on the tariffs and lowered the amounts down to 10%, with the exception of China. Even with all those bouncing, I'm still in the hole. And then checked my mail, and Lidl had sent me an email this morning indicating that they had 3 days of deals going on. And one of the things that was part of the 3 day deal was they had what they call butcher's specialty whole chicken for 99 cents a pound. And they also had Tyson frozen Cornish hens for $3.69 each. Both of those prices are pretty good. So anyway, I and my wife has been asking me to go make a donation over at Goodwill of North Georgia. So today I finally loaded up the back of the truck with a bunch of items she wanted to donate and drove over to the donation center and donated them to Goodwill. Then the Goodwill Center is across the street from Lidl. So I ended up going over to Lidl. I picked up a spiral sliced ham for Easter. I ended up getting 3 of their whole chickens at the 99 cents a pound because it was a really great price. Picked up a pork loin, which they also had on sale for $1.99 a pound. A couple of pounds of wild caught shrimp, which was like $7.99 a pound. And then they had Bob Evans sides, 2 for $6, so $3 each. And you had to buy 2, but at least in my area, that's a good price. So I picked that up. Then I dropped this back off at the house and then run off to Publix and had to buy some staples items. So I did that. Then I ran over to Walmart to pick up some more staple items. And also, that's where I get my distilled water. So I usually buy about 5 gallons of distilled water a week that I use for a variety of purposes. Anyway, picked those up. Then we did a quick Costco run because my wife was running low on her half and half, and Costco is just so much cheaper than anywhere else for that. So she saves like, I want to say $1.80 per container when she goes there. So we did that. But the main thing I wanted to pick up was Costco had Kerrygold Irish butter on sale. I want to say it's $3.50 off a container. Anyway, it ended up being, instead of $14 plus per 2-pound block of butter, it was just over $10. I don't remember the exact price, but it was a substantial savings. And at that price, I bought 3. You could buy up to 5. I bought 3 and put them in the freezer. I had already previously bought the prior week a thing of Kirkland's grass-fed butter, and they both are 95% grass-fed, and then they're supplemented the other 5% with non-GMO whatever elements for the cows to eat. Anyway, I just really like the taste of Kerrygold butter versus other butter. So when it's on sale, I try and get it. And then what else? Oh, my wife likes the Kirkland chunk white chicken, and so they had that on sale. So I picked that up for her. And then she was running low. She likes Olive Garden dressing, even though it's not good for you. So anyway, she picked that up while we were there as well. Then we were starving because by then it was about 3:30ish. So we ran over, just because it was convenient, over to Taco Bell and had something to hold us over. Then I came back and, after I put everything away, I started watching some Instagram reels, and there were 2 specific ones that I found super interesting. One I sent to my wife, one I sent to my son. The one I sent to my wife was from the fabulous 50s, and it said that people born in the 50s have lived in 7 decades, 2 centuries, and 2 millennium. They had the best music, fastest cars, drive-in theaters, soda fountains, and happy days, and they're not even old yet. They're just cool. I knew she would appreciate that. So sent that over to her. And then the one I sent to my son was from a site called Don't Trust Tom. And the guy was showing that whether you buy a small, medium, or large Starbucks coffee, the amount of coffee that you get in the cup is exactly the same amount. And the reason it's the same amount is the coffee cup's circumference is smaller as you go from small to medium to large. So he demonstrated pouring the small into a medium and it filled it to the top. Then he poured the medium into the large and it filled it to the top. Then he pulled the large back into the small and it filled it to the top. So, I just found that super interesting. Forwarded to my son. He found it super interesting that, basically you're paying more money for the same stuff, regardless of the size you pick. So I just found that, surprising. Anyway, um, after that, I watched a few minutes of the Masters while Jordan Spieth, no, sorry, Rory McIlroy was going from the ninth hole to the 10th. So I watched a couple holes there, and that was that. And then I was super tired, so I took an hour and a half nap. I got up, I made a porterhouse steak on the grill. The problem for me was about 4 minutes before I was expecting it to be done, I walked out to check on it and found out there was the burners were off because I ran out of propane. So then I had to go change the propane tanks, refire back up the grill, and then basically, which I normally do from time, but this time I had to go use instant read thermometer to make sure that I didn't overcook the steak and could get it to where we wanted. Did that. Excuse me. Did that, and so that we had that for dinner. And my wife wanted to watch some old NCIS episodes while we were eating, so that's what we did. And then that pretty much ended my day, and here I am. So that's my update for the last 2 days. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the comment section down below or drop me an email at myretirementramblings@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening, and until tomorrow, take care.